executives. Funny breed. What they may lack in dress sense, they more than make up for with brand loyalty. See that guy over there? He started out in business with a little Mercedes 190, and he's going to stick with Merc until the day he dies. He'll just get bigger and better models as he moves up the corporate ladder. And what about that bloke? He's got a Jag, and it wouldn't matter if Lexus sent round half-naked Fijian girls to rub exotic oils into him every night. He is not going to change. 90% of these people will stick with the same manufacturer year after year after year. Unfortunately, what all this means is that if you've got a Jaguar or a Mercedes or a Lexus, for the next few minutes, you're going to be bored rigid. Yes, this new 5 Series is designed primarily for people who already go to their lodge meetings in an old 5 Series. And if I know my BMW drivers, and I think I do, the first question they're likely to ask is a simple one. Oh, for sure, yeah. The 2.3 is a bit of a tortoise, but this has 2.8 litres of farm-fresh double cream with the power of absolute vodka. It gets from 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds and does 145 miles an hour. That's fast enough to keep Diana ahead of the paparazzi. Next question, please. Are you kidding? This is the first car in the world whose undersides are made entirely from aluminium, and that has a dramatic effect. In any car, there's a worrying moment of instability between turning the wheel and feeling the car actually settle into the bend. Now, in a Ferrari, the moment is virtually instantaneous. In a Lada, it's over in about 2-3 years, something like that. But this is as good as saloon cars get. No matter what the hazard, it reacts like lightning. Good brakes, good handling, and good ride comfort combine to make this a very relaxing car to drive, even if you're going quickly. Ooh, cows! See the cows? Of course there is. When you're on your own and feeling lazy, you drive this car just like an automatic. But when Jenkins from accounts climbs on board, you slide the lever over here, and you have manual control. To change up, you push it forwards. To change down, you pull it back. I have to say this is probably the best of the so-called semi-automatic gearbox systems because it has 5 speeds as opposed to the Porsche, which has 4. But this one does think it knows best. Look at this. I want to go in 5th, and it keeps telling me I have to go in 4th. Look, I'm the boss here. Who won the war anyway? Well, not really, no. But I do wish that BMW wouldn't glue MFI veneer to the dashboard. Barbara Cartland can't play football, and the Germans can't make wood look good in a car, so why do they bother? And what's that wine gum doing stuck to the rear-view mirror? And look at this piece of cotton dangling off the steering wheel. Well, for once, it's not bad. This 528 comes with traction control and all the toys for £30,000. But best of all, for the first time in living memory, BMW has provided a stereo as standard. Hello? Hello, all you Jaguar, Mercedes and Lexus drivers. Did you hear that? I'll play it again, all right? For the first time in living memory, BMW has provided a stereo as standard. Surely, it can't be true. But it is, and better than that, it's one of the most sensible systems I've ever found. An on-off switch the size of a walnut. volume control on the steering wheel, and buttons which are big and easy to understand. You're not fiddling around with a cocktail stick in the middle of the night trying to find Radio 4. Marvellous. Now that I have the attention of all right-thinking people, no matter what you drive, can I ask you to stay with me till dawn, because there's something else you need to see. Good night. Morning. Now, I turned the engine off about 12 hours ago, so it's stone cold. Now, ordinarily, I'd be waiting 7 or 8 minutes for the heater to start working, but not in this. Almost immediately, hot air is dribbling through the vents. Apparently, there's a sort of thermos-type thingy somewhere behind the dashboard which can store the engine's heat for up to 2 days. It's a £700 option at the moment, but it's got to be worth it. This is a damn fine car which is bristling with world firsts and good ideas. I still can't see it pulling in too many Mercedes or Jaguar drivers because of what it stands for, because of that 80s image. But it's easily good enough to keep BMW drivers smiling a smile the size of Cheshire. You know, that 5 Series is so complete these days, I think a postscript is necessary here. See, I can't think of a single reason why anyone would want to buy a 7 Series instead. Maybe if I go for a drive, I'll think of something. This top-of-the-range model has the most sophisticated computer TV combo. There's something I need to check out. Now, I've described the BMW 5 Series saloon as perfect, but this is the new turbo diesel estate, and it's not. BMW's diesel is so thirsty you're better off with a smoother, more powerful petrol engine. And for the same money as the Mercedes, you could have a 5.8 ISE with satellite navigation and a TV set. Sounds tempting. But then the BMW has a pathetically small boot. So what's it going to be? A petrol BMW with a thimble nailed to its rear end, or the diesel-powered Brunhilde? Well, this is the better, more practical estate car. Oh, no. You know what I've done, don't you? I've just made a reasoned argument for buying a diesel in preference to a petrol. Howling gaff! What have I done? I'm not old enough for diesels. Oh, what have I done?
Not so with the BMW 540. No longer does the chairman of the board have to choose between a sports car and an executive express, because he can have both. Trouble is, forget taking clients out to lunch, because the rear legroom is more world traveller than club class. And anyway, the 5 Series lacks, what's the word I'm looking for? Nobility.
To assume that people, no matter what it's like, will buy it. And that hurts my head. I mean, if someone's going to buy one of these, just think what they're turning down. The obvious choice for anyone with 22 to 25,000 to blow on a car is the 5 Series BMW. It's excellent in every way.
The BMW 5 Series fared quite well despite potential thigh, knee and pelvis injuries. Here we've got the front wheel quite far back, pushing the bulkhead, the firewall up and the pedals. My knees are pinioned under the steering wheel, so I'm going to have ankle, knee and pelvis injuries, and this is one I wouldn't have walked away from. Another surprise was that the rear passenger door was flung open in the test. Not good news for anyone unbelted in the back.
For an extra £700, you can have this sport version of the 528i, although this leather interior will cost you another £1,300. But you do get as standard exactly the same steering wheel and M-Tech aluminium livery as you'll find on its big brother. So the experience is already halfway there. I feel like I've just moved from a gentleman's drinking club to a trendy sports bar. For 4 years, the 5 Series has claimed the title as the world's best saloon. It's got plenty of space and it's high-tech in all the right places, but some feel it's a bit on the dull side, and this sports version has only a few subtle improvements. With only 193 horsepower coming from its straight-six engine, the BMW is half a second slower than the Jag to 60. But the sharper steering and stiffer suspension really bring the car alive in the corners. The Lexus is the most expensive of the three, the GS300 SE being £300 more than the BMW. It may look like a cross between a Merc and a barge, but nevertheless the Lexus badge oozes kudos. To be really sporty though, you'll have to fork out another £4,000 to get this sport version, with a lowered suspension, deep front spoiler and racy rear wing, though it looks a bit too top-heavy to match the European hierarchy. But it's on the inside that it really lets itself down. OK, it's a high-voltage affair with all the usual arrangement of Toyota hardware, but it's all rather nondescript, certainly not sporting. The only real easy-on-the-eye feature being these rather nice illuminated dials. The driving position is, however, spot on, and the ride and handling much more in the BMW lead. But despite having over 200 horsepower, it takes over 8 seconds to drag its extra weight to 60. So the Lexus loses out due to its lack of straight-line speed and rather bland interior, leaving the choice between the Jag and the BMW. And whilst without doubt the S-Type has the more elegant lines, I'm afraid I'll be looking at them through the rear-view mirror of the BM.
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, M5. 400 horsepower. I love cars that have got 400 horsepower. Oh.
Further.
I've just come from the end of the show, and it's brilliant, brilliant. Fasten your seatbelts. When the new 5 Series BMW arrived back in the spring of 1996, it met with universal acclaim. It set new standards for its competitors in virtually every respect. Yet all the enthusiast wanted to know was when the M5 version would arrive. And the answer was not what they wanted to hear. There wasn't going to be one. BMW decreed that the 540 with 286 horsepower and a 0 to 60 time of 6.2 seconds was quite fast enough. Indeed, the BMW boss at that time stated that the 540 had reached the physical limit of acceleration. But, of course, he was wrong. 18 months after the 5 Series launch, the 370 horsepower version of the supercharged 4-litre Jaguar XJR arrived and wafted to 60 in just under 6 seconds. Although the ride quality is excellent even on this old airfield surface, the handling isn't exactly pin sharp, and nor is the feedback through the steering. But then this is an English gentleman's car. You're not supposed to switch off the traction control and drive like a hooligan. So, here goes. But it wasn't just the British who upset the BMW apple cart, because 6 months later, their great German rivals Mercedes came out with the E55, the ultimate E-Class, created by their tuning specialists, AMG. The normally aspirated 5.4-litre V8 only has 354 horsepower, but it's lighter than the Jag and it's got more torque, so it's faster from 0 to 60 by almost half a second. A slightly firmer ride and more road noise make the Merc less comfortable than the Jag, but it also makes it a better handling car. We now have not only traction control, but the very latest in driver aids, automatic skid control, or ESP in Mercedes' case. That's the individual wheel braking that helps counteract any understeer or oversteer. And even when it's switched off, the Mercedes still keeps its traction control, but only at speeds under 50 miles an hour. All of a sudden, the 540 wasn't quite top dog in the executive car park. Eclipsed by both Jaguar and Mercedes, pressure for a new M5 increased, and the reply wasn't long coming. Like its predecessor, the new M5 has few external features to distinguish it from the rest of the 5 Series. It's a classic wolf in sheep's clothing, with little to give away the power that lurks beneath. Yes, it's got a more aggressive front spoiler, more aerodynamic door mirrors, and a tiny spoiler on the boot lid. But it's only really the 18-inch double-spoke chrome shadow wheels, the 4 stainless steel tailpipes, and yes, this little badge that really give the game away. With a 5-litre V8 pushing out 400 horsepower, the BMW leaps back to the front of the pack, threatening to crash to 60 in just 5 seconds, for the sort of high-tech engineering you'd expect from its motorsport breeding. It's a car for the new millennium, when BMW returned to the Grand Prix scene. Indeed, the M5 has the most technically advanced road car engine in the world, and like a racing engine, it needs to be warmed up gently. Warning lights suggest changing gear below 4,500 revs until the engine is up to temperature, and even then a 6,500 warning remains before the 7,000 limit is reached. Complete with a slick 6-speed manual gearbox as standard, you get all this for a fiver under £60,000. Just over 500 less than the Merc, but 9 grand more than the Jag. BMW's stability control system is called DSC. And like the Mercs, it has an uncanny ability to try and help the clumsiest of drivers from getting himself into trouble. You can steer viciously, and then you can feel the brakes coming on individually as the car tries to slide. The car's sensors detect the problem, they take the power away from the engine, and they actually put the brakes on the wheels. It's absolutely incredible what these modern systems can do. Of course, in the end, when given an empty airfield, even in these appalling conditions, you do have to switch it off, just to have a little bit more fun. This car is so beautifully balanced, it's like putty in my hands.
Can't stop the rock, can't stop the rock, you can't stop the rock, can't stop the rock.
The threat from Jaguar and Mercedes has been washed aside, even when I demand the impossible. The 360-degree spin is easily controlled. This car really does take you back to the future. Indeed, it's so much fun, I'm going to go back to the beginning of the programme and do it all over again. For the past 3 years, they've been battling it out in the biggest PR arena of them all, Formula One, where the spinning propeller of BMW has left the leaping Jaguar trailing in its wake. Now, the fight is on as to who makes the ultimate super saloon. Jag claim it's not the intent of their new S-Type R to pick a fight with the BMW M5. But what other saloon has rear-wheel drive, 400 horsepower and costs around £50,000? Which one you dream of most will probably depend on whether you prefer British grace or German presence, a relaxing automatic gearbox or a chunky manual, the sound of a supercharged 4.2-litre V8 or a high-tech, normally aspirated 5-litre V8. The M5 has been unrivalled for 3 years. Is the S-Type R the car to show it the way home? Jaguar have pulled their favourite trick of simply whacking a supercharger onto their faithful V8, and in so doing have added 100 horsepower. It might seem a rather archaic method, but it's created the most powerful Jaguar saloon ever. That whining soundtrack does have a lot of fans. But why they like it, I've no idea. It drives me mad. All those wafting Jaguar qualities like a refined ride and well-weighted steering are present and correct. And the automatic gearbox is one of the silkiest around with its classic Jaguar J-gate. But it is still an automatic, and when it comes to a bit of press-on motoring, even in manual mode, it doesn't change down always when you want it to. Another problem is the lack of a limited slip differential, which means with all that power, the traction control cuts in very early. So if you're caught out at a junction, you either end up with unwanted hesitation, or with the traction off, a wildly spinning inside wheel. So what does all that mean when it comes to the ultimate challenge? Still in its original layout, Google provides a beautiful test for man and machine. It's lovely flowing circuit, but you shouldn't see this Jag get up some pretty high speeds. I'm sorry, this whine doesn't get me in the mood for track driving. Imagine it more wallowing understeer, and really the softness that was so nice to have on the road really shows up on the racetrack. This is a stiff car by road standards, but on a track there's still too much roll now. Up to 11th, this tight double right-hander, hit the throttle and... oof. 125 miles an hour down to Woodcote, pop the lever forward, and it does change down incredibly smoothly for an automatic, especially when it's high performance. Ooh, lots of wheel spin there. Oh, rev limiter, yes, change up. A lot of wheel spin there coming out of the chicane, and again, without that limited slip diff, it's leaking the power away. I'm not going anywhere. Which all results in a lap time of 1 minute 36. But what will the M5 make of that? It's got the same power as the Jag, but a more instant power delivery. It doesn't sound as good as a sweet V12, but a V8 always means that mid-range torque that helps punch you out of the corners, balancing that power on the steering with the throttle, with a little kick of oversteer at the end on the rev limiter. Fourth, it's all busy around here. Fifth again for this Ford Water corner, taken at, what, 120 miles an hour, up to 130 on the short straight, braking easily for the first part of St Mary's. It's a tricky twiddler. Don't slide too wide, diff. Back on the brakes. Left. Flip the curb. Catch the first slide, then holding it on the throttle. Oh. The brakes don't feel as sharp as the Jags, but they seem to stop much better. The Jags noticeably fading towards the end of 3 laps. Up then to 11th, this big double apex right-hander. And you still go sideways in the BMW, but now you've at least got both rear wheels driving you forward. Down to this famous Woodcote corner, another tricky double apex. The lap's almost finished. I think I've got it balanced just about on the edge. Will the lap time be quicker? Into the second gear for the chicane. Kick that back out. Catch the slide. Cross the line, and it's 4 seconds quicker than the S-Type. At the end of the day, perhaps Jaguar are right. These are different horses for different courses. But there can only be one ultimate super saloon, and that still has to be the BMW M5.
Ah, Tiff's always aroused with the smell of burning brakes. Cue his favourite, the BMW M5. And at nearly half the cost of the Merc, it scores well for value. And Tiff was feeling particularly persuasive.
He says he does better when he's got the kids in the back because it focuses his mind.
It's true, it does. But what were John's first thoughts?
Back to the environment for a bit and talk about diesel. Now, we don't blame anybody for buying a diesel engine car. OK, so the fuel might cost about the same as petrol, but you'll get much better economy. And the engines themselves have come on a very long way. For instance, the TDCi diesel engine in this Ford Focus. Great. It's a really good, usable, everyday car, and it's a diesel. Need something bigger? BMW 5 Series. The 3-litre diesel engine in there, I kid you not, at 90 mile an hour, you'd never know it was a diesel. Need something even bigger.
Mucked it up. We're not going to be green anymore. This week, we're going to be scarlet. Yes. And that's why we have a BMW M5 in the Top Gear base. 4-door saloon car, 400 brake horsepower under the bonnet. Now, a lot of you won't have the first idea what 400 brake horsepower actually is. So, I've come up with this simple graph to explain it. Here we are, there's the power, and here, to make it simple, the number of double-decker buses. Now, as an example, Nelson's column, 10 double-decker buses, okay? Big Ben, 30 double-decker buses. And here we are, here's 400 brake horsepower, up to about here, 40 double-decker buses. If you were to spread 400 brake horsepower on the ground to a depth of about 6 inches, it would cover an area the size of Belgium. And BMW is no longer the only car maker to be putting so much Belgium under the bonnet. Look at this. It's the Jaguar S-Type R, now available with a 4.2-litre supercharged V8 engine and 400 horsepower. Wonderful car, and Jaguar must be very, very pleased to have finally, after all these years, caught up with BMW.
This is the score. The whole world is bored senseless by the BMW 5 Series. For far too long, it's been far too good, leaving nobody in the boardroom with a decent alternative. All rivals have to do is come up with a car there or thereabouts, and they're on to a winner. Easy. 7 years ago, Mercedes tried their luck with the old E-Class. The badge, the build and the engines gave it a decent shout, all right, but with its sledgehammer looks and handling, they shot wide of an open goal. It was a sleepy-looking slab of metal with goofy eyes at the front.